being treated as, a white man, a black man, a white woman, black woman, and all of the other possibilities, age, nationality, etc.
You mentioned the white man and the pilot, for example. In America, it would be natural to see more white people, white men flying for airplanes because America was created by white people, founded by white people, by white men.
Built by black people.
And then they hired the black people that the Arabs brought in to help build the country. But if you went to Africa where they're majority blacks, then you would see more black pilots and less white men driving or flying the plane. Am I right? Because of the population.
Well, it's the population, and it's also systems of inequality that are not just historical, but get reproduced every day and are very contemporary.
But you do agree that the population has something to do with it too. If there are more white people or black people in Africa, naturally you're going to see more
so there's not
of
many,
that race.
there are not many Jewish people. 1% of the population. I think Jews are only about 1% of the U.S. population too. And yet you see them nonetheless in positions of authority. This is now, we're moving a little bit out of my area of study because I am not a race scholar.
But I just want, because I'm trying to understand it, but you do consider the population too, right? That if there are more, if you go to Israel, of course you're going to have more Jewish pilots because there are more Jews.
There's also a lot of
Israel, right?
There's also a lot of discrimination and oppression of Palestinians in Israel, so that's part of it too. But just go back to women. Women are over half of the population, and yet we're not half of the pilots. We're not half of the doctors. We're not half of the surgeons. We're more than half of the nurses. We're more than half of, a lot of other professions, social work. Women are very underrepresented also in the trades, in construction.
But that's because they got a late start.
Why is it that we see these patterns in which different races, ethnicities are not evenly or randomly distributed in terms of profession?
Life doesn't work like that. Nothing is. Before I get to your new book, I want to ask you about fatness.
Sure.
Right? And what is your opinion on fatness? What do you think about that? Because I noticed that people are trying to push fatness like it's a nice thing, right? You got all these fat women running around, half naked, and showing their fat butts.
So where's that? I haven't seen that spot.
There's one black rapper right now, woman.
Lizzo?
Yeah, she is gross. She's old and she's fat.
No, that must not be
the rapper. Is it Lizzo?
No.
Yeah, Lizzo.
She's not old.
She was at a fat bar.
If Lizzo's old, then I'm ancient, and let's not even start.
I'm ancient. God made me, and then he made dirt for me to walk on. But that's how old I am. But what do you?
Pretty gorgeous in my opinion. But
what do you think about fatness?
I published this book in 2013. What's wrong with fat? And what I was trying to answer in this question was, how is it that we have come to believe in this world, and your statements are a great example of this. How have we become so certain that it's unhealthy, it's undesirable, it's ugly? Like, where is that coming from, and what are the social implications of that?
So let me ask, I'm black and I'm slow, so I may ask in a weird way. Are you trying to prove that fatness doesn't cause diseases and death, or it's not? It doesn't cause high blood pressure.
I'll leave to the epidemiologists and the medical doctors to debate that out. But what I do show
that it's attractive or something.
Being discriminated against also raises stress and cortisol level, which causes more weight gain. And in fact, one of the things I show in the book is all of this anti-fat bias that we keep on people because they're heavier, and we tell them you're ugly and you shouldn't, and you shouldn't be going out. Like, that actually has been shown to make people heavier.
Would you want to be fat, you person?
Would I want to be fat? Would I want to take on discrimination and be mistreated in society? No.
So you're saying that fat was discriminated against them, right?
There's a lot of evidence.
Just for the fat person, and they get fatter.
There's a lot of evidence that is what happens.
So now that white people, especially white men, are being discriminated against, should we expect to see a lot of fat white men?
What, fat white men are being discriminated against, really?
Should we be able to
This
see a
is
lot
a
of
news
fat
flash?
white? So what is fat phobia? What is that?
So, you know, and this actually starts to link into my new book a little bit.
Yeah.
Come out, whoever you are.
Right.
Because the term fat phobia is borrowed from, it's inspired by another word. Can you guess what term? Fat phobia. There's another kind of phobia we talk about a lot.
White supremacists.
I mean, white supremacy is a real problem, but a word that has phobia.
White phobia.
Homophobia.
Oh, that's
So-
where fat phobia came from?
I believe so.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And one of the things that I found really surprising when I started doing research at the Fat Acceptance Movement in the year 2000. Can you believe it? I went to the National Association to Advance Fat Acceptance, was holding a conference in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. The Fat Acceptance Movement has really taken inspiration from the gay rights movement and the LGBTQ plus movement, and has, you know, by using the similar terminology, is saying, you know, this is like, being fat is like being gay. We're discriminated against, but also, you know, you've been asking questions that kind of assume like it's a choice. Would I want to be fat? Why do people tell people not? But there's actually, and this is not my research, but there are geneticists who have shown that body size is just as determined by genetics as is height. Require an explanation.
So what you guys are trying to do, if I'm
Social
hearing this correctly, you're trying to convince society to accept fat as a norm, not look at them and think, wow, that's a fat one, right? You're trying to cause society to see an abnorm as a norm. Would you marry a beta male?
That's a personal question. I'm already married, so I can't. My father used to
Is he a
say.
beta?
My father said about my husband that he's a what did he say? He's a closet alpha. That he's an alpha pretending not to be, something like that. I have to remember. I have to ask my mom.
Oh, so you were really an alpha male, but he pretended to be a beta male with you?
That he didn't come off as he comes back as more laid back than
Well, like
maybe
a
he
beta
really
male.
is. Yeah.
Amazing.
But yeah.
The Me Too movement, you heard of that, right? Wouldn't you agree with me that they've gone too far with that? It's a joke now?
No, I would not agree.
Why not? Why not?
We have so far to go. So I mean, the truth is, it's a real problem, and a tiny proportion of victims ever come forward. It's just so hard for women to win, even when they're telling the truth again and again, which is the overwhelming majority of the time. It's very rare that women.
You know why that is, right?
Why what is?
Why sometimes women don't win when they make these accusations. You know why they don't win sometimes, right?
Well, what you're gonna say, I'm sure is not what I'm gonna say.
When you say,
but
why
this is your show.
No,
so
but you're my guest. You're the expert. Why is it sometimes that women don't win those cases?
Well, it's very hard to win a case in criminal court of sexual assault. The whole criminal system is based, and understandably so, rightfully so. What is much more common is so many more women who are victimized who never come forward.
That's not true.
No, it is true. Believe me, I'm the expert. That's why you brought me out here. I'm telling you,
You're the
it's
expert.
true. You might not like to believe it, but it's
You're
true.
the expert, but I have the conversation. So I know that's not true, right?
Well-
But let me tell you this.
Common sense is sometimes a dangerous thing.
Common sense is the only way to go.
It leads you to ignore facts and to reinforce your preconceived assumptions.
I know why.
So be cautious about that.
No, common sense is, the problem is people don't use common sense anymore. They use intellect, and the intellect lacks common sense. So that's why the world's going to
Why the hell am I sitting here?
Do you use common sense? You don't use
I
common sense?
do use common sense, but I'm saying
I
preconceived
thought
notions.
you used common sense.
Of course I use common sense.
Oh.
But I also like to see the facts and the studies, and I know that we can often assume things are right based on what everybody else, the kind of preconceived notions, and those are often wrong.
Let me ask you this because of time.
Yeah.
Some of the time the women, most of the time, even though the courts are on the women's side, not ladies' side, they can accuse you of saying whatever they want and get away with it. But the reason that I'm glad that a lot of these cases women lose is because women are, but women are, it's easy for women to lie, and they don't mind destroying. If they get angry at you, because a lot of women you get on them and they go, yeah, I want to do it, let's do it. And then as soon as you do it, they get mad because they become addicted to you, they want to control you, and then they'll falsely accuse you. And the courts are set up to believe the woman over the man, so that's why this needs to end, because a lot of these women don't mind destroying men. They're destroying men's children in the womb and outside the womb. We need to stop this movement before it goes too far. Don't you agree?
It sounds like you've had some really painful experiences.
Oh no, I've never had that. I just know other men. I just know other men who've gone through that. But do you agree it's time to end this type of this phase in so-called women? And look at the women in the movement. Nobody want them anyway. I think they're mad because no one wants them. They're like, let's be honest, fat, ugly, they're short hair. Nobody wants them. I think they're mad about that. Would you agree?
No, we wouldn't. Sorry, I think we're talking past each other.
What do you mean?
I am speechless. What can I say?
Jordan Peterson, you've said that men need to, quote, grow the hell up. Tell me why.
Well, because there's nothing uglier than an old infant. There's nothing good about it. People who don't grow up don't find the sort of meaning in their life that sustains them through difficult times, and they're certain to encounter difficult times. And they're left bitter and resentful and without purpose and adrift and hostile and resentful and vengeful and arrogant and deceitful and of no use to themselves and of no use to anyone else and no partner for a woman. There's nothing in it that's good.
So you say, I mean, that sounds pretty bad. You're saying
It's
there's a
bad.
crisis of masculinity? I mean, what do you do about it?
You help people understand why it's necessary and important for them to grow up and adopt responsibility. Why that isn't a shake your finger and get your act together sort of thing. Why it's more like a delineation of the kind of destiny that makes life worth living. I've been telling young men, but it's not. I wasn't specifically aiming this message at young men to begin with. It just kind of turned out that way.
And it's mostly, you admit, it's mostly men listening. I mean,
It is.
90% of your audience is a man.
Well, it's
right?
about 80% on YouTube, which is YouTube is a male domain primarily, so it's hard to tell how much of it is because YouTube is male and how much of it is because of what I'm saying. But what I've been telling young men is that there's an actual reason why they need to grow up, which is that they have something to offer, you know, that people have within them this capacity to set the world straight, and that's necessary to manifest in the world, and that also doing so is where you find the meaning that sustains you in life.
So what's gone wrong then?
Oh, God, all sorts of things have gone wrong. I don't think that young men hear words of encouragement. Some of them never in their entire lives, as far as I can tell. That's what they tell me. And the fact that the words that I've been speaking, the YouTube lectures that I've done and put online, for example, have had such a dramatic impact is an indication that young men are starving for this sort of message. Because, like, why in the world would they have to derive it from a lecture on YouTube? You know, they're not being taught that it's important to develop yourself.
Does it bother you that your audience is predominantly male? Isn't that a bit divisive?
No, I don't think so. I mean, it's no more divisive than the fact that YouTube is primarily male and Tumblr is
Well, that's
primarily
pretty divisive,
female.
isn't it?
Tumblr is primarily female.
But you're just saying that's the way it is.
Well, I'm not saying anything. It's just an observation that that's the way it is. There's plenty of women that are watching my lectures and coming to my talks and buying my books. It's just the majority of them happen to be men.
What's in it for the women, though?
Well, what sort of partner do you want? You want an overgrown child? Or do you want someone to contend with that's going to help you and that
So
you
you're
can
saying
rely on?
women have some sort of duty to sort of help fix the crisis of masculinity?
It depends on what they want. No, I mean, it's exactly how I laid it out. Like, women deeply want men who are competent and powerful. And I don't mean power in that they can exert tyrannical control over others. That's not power. That's just corruption. Power is competence. And why in the world would you not want a competent partner? Well, I know why. You can't dominate a competent partner. So if you want domination...
Want to dominate, is that what you're saying?
No, I'd say women who have had their relationships impaired, their relationships with men impaired, and who are afraid of such relationships will settle for a weak partner because they can dominate them. But it's a suboptimal solution.
Do you think that's what a lot of women are doing?
I think there's a substantial minority of women who do that. And I think it's very bad for them. They're very unhappy. It's very bad for their partners, although their partners get the advantage of not having to take any responsibility.
But what gives you the right to say that? I mean, maybe that's how women use their relationships, those women. I mean, you're making vast generalizations.
I'm a clinical psychologist.
Right, so you're saying you've done your research and women are unhappy dominating men.
I didn't say they were unhappy dominating men. I said it was a bad long-term solution.
Okay, you said it was making them miserable.
Yes. And it depends on the time frame. I mean, there's intense pleasure in momentary domination. That's why people do it all the time. But it's no formula for a successful long-term relationship. That's reciprocal, right? Any long-term relationship is reciprocal, virtually by definition. So...
Let me put a quote to you from the book, where you say there are whole disciplines in universities forthrightly hostile towards men. These are the areas of study dominated by the postmodern stroke neo-Marxist claim that Western culture in particular is an oppressive structure created by white men to dominate and exclude women. But then I want to put
minorities too.
Okay, sure. But I want to put to you that here in the UK, for example, let's take that as an example, the gender pay gap stands at just over 9%. You've got women at the BBC recently saying that the broadcaster is illegally paying them less than men to do the same job. You've got only 7 women running the top FTSE 100 companies.
Yeah.
So it seems to a lot of women that they're still being dominated and excluded, to quote your words back to you.
It does seem that way, but multivariate analysis of the pay gap indicate that it doesn't exist.
But that's just not true, is it? I mean, that 9% pay gap, that's a gap between median hourly earnings between men and women.
But there's
that exists.
Yeah, but there's multiple reasons for that. One of them is gender, but it's not the only reason. Like if you're a...
Pick your hero. Or villain. I'm not judging.
I just got to witness the conclusion of what I believe to be the worst trilogy of films ever produced. I think anyone that has subjected themselves to the torture of watching Strangers Chapter 1, Chapter 2, and Chapter 3 will probably agree that there is no series of films this bad. Because even though there are worse individual films, they don't ever see a sequel or, heaven forbid, a trilogy. Usually, they just stop at the first blunder, but somehow Chapter 1, Chapter 2, and Chapter 3 of The Strangers goes the distance. And it started horrible. Strangers Chapter 1 was one of the worst movies of that year. And then Strangers Chapter 2 came out, and that was one of the worst movies of that year. And now Strangers Chapter 3 is here, and it is no doubt one of the worst movies that this year we'll see. To quickly clear up confusion, because every time I mention this franchise, people think about the wrong film. The Strangers Chapter 1 I'm referring to is not the 2008 classic that most people fondly remember, myself included. I'm talking about the 2024 soft reboot called The Strangers Chapter 1 that I wager 99% of you didn't even know exists. This movie is horrible. Strangers Chapter 1 is horrible. Chapter 2 is terrible, and Chapter 3 is what I can only describe as sinful, because it's a level that is so atrocious that I actually feel dirty, and I feel like in the eyes of the Lord I am now lesser in His eyes for having watched it. This defies all sense of rational thinking. Strangers Chapter 1 started awful, and each new entry into the franchise only got worse. They learned no lessons and only kept progressively getting shittier. I didn't even think something like that was possible. But before diving in, I want to just quickly let you all know that right now we're doing a Chainsaw Man collab with Starforge, so if you've ever wanted to upgrade your PC and also are a huge fan of Chainsaw Man, now's the perfect time to check it out. Link in the description. Anyway, since I bore witness to it, I want to share my thoughts. Of course, I wrote down notes here because this one was shockingly bad. Somehow, even though they had already filmed all 3 movies, this one feels extremely rushed, like they had no time, no budget left, and not a single fucking care in the world to finish it off in a sensible manner. Anyway, this picks up right where Chapter 2 leaves off, after our main character, Maya, was able to overpower one of her pursuers and ends up with her death. She killed one of the strangers. It was the main love interest from the guy in the mask with the axe. His name is Gregory. And the woman that is killed now was like his childhood crush. They killed Tamara together, and since that day they were obsessed with killing random people that came into town. So it picks up right after she's dead. Gregory's over her corpse, hits it with the axe a few times, and then throws it in the back of his pickup truck with the other girl that's following him around, who's still a mystery as of this moment. Oh, spoiler warning, by the way. Who gives a fuck? No one cares. Spoiler warning, though. Maya is watching all of this unfold. Gregory and her drive away, and then Maya starts walking. She was hiding in the forest watching all this. So she's walking along the road. The sheriff then picks her up, and the sheriff's giving real creepy vibes, feeling real yucky. So Maya tricks him and steals his vehicle. As Maya is driving away, she gets maybe like 50 yards. Like, she didn't get far at all. She got about as many yards as Drake May did in the Super Bowl in the first half. She gets literally nowhere, puts the pedal to the metal, and instantly takes her eyes off the road to start fiddling around in something in the passenger seat and crashes the car. Immediately. I'm pretty sure the sheriff could still see her after she crashed the car. And then Gregory comes back in the pickup truck and knocks her out and takes her out of the car. Immediately off rip, this movie pissed me off. Why would she immediately take her eyes off the road to do something in the passenger seat with random files and folders? She has no fucking clue what she's even tinkering with. Why is she doing that? Like, she could have easily just got away, drove out of town, and been totally fine. Which also would have saved a few other lives too, had she done that. But she makes the inexplicable choice to just do one of these while, like, literally just, foot fucking blasting on the accelerator, not looking at all, and crashing into a tree. It was so dumb. It was so stupid. Anyway, though, we then get like a flashback that explains the relationship between the sheriff and Gregory, the axe guy. And it turns out the sheriff is his father. And his father wanted to protect his son. His son was facing imprisonment for the murder of Tamara. And being such a stand-up great dad, he was able to prevent that from happening, and then tries to set rules with Gregory and the girl that he's always with, whose name I don't even fucking remember. But the two that started this whole thing of killing, they randomly just murder a guy in the woods with an axe, and the sheriff comes over and he's like, son, I knew this was going to happen again, so we're going to need to lay some ground rules. You can't kill townspeople. You can only murder people that visit us. Because surely that won't be looked into and investigated, and surely they don't have anyone that cares about them. So that was the plan. It was bulletproof, really. So the sheriff does everything in his power to, like, bury the investigation on all of the people that go to this small town and end up missing, knowing full well Gregory and her and the other girl are murdering them. And that's the backstory. So the sheriff's not a good guy. But Gregory, in the last movie, ended up killing some townspeople, which has the townspeople even more scared, because they know that when people come to this small town, they die, they end up missing, but they know that since they're residents of the town, they're safe, until all of a sudden they're not, because Gregory is now killed. some normal townspeople. So the sheriff's partner's like, look, but I'm gonna call in the out-of-state police because this is out of control now. And then the sheriff kills him. Jabs him in the head with like a tiny little medical instrument, instantly killing him. So then Gregory has Maya in like this underground facility, and he puts the mask on her, the mask that the girls wear, the strangers wear. He puts that on Maya, so that way she'll team up and join his crew, which she does. So now Maya's traveling with Gregory and the other girl to go murder some out-of-town people. But while this is going on, Maya's sister, her sister's husband, and then some agent, I guess, he's like the hired muscle, have arrived at the small town trying to gather clues about Maya's whereabouts. You know, is she safe? They're here to save her, but the town's being all weird, and then they pick up on the sheriff's odd vibe, so they start following him. We then get another flashback sequence. Gregory and the girl are a little bit older, but they're still supposed to be kids, and they're at the gas station choosing their next target to murder. She goes inside the gas station to get some food, and some weirdo walks up to her and starts hitting on her with some really, really uncomfortable dialogue, saying, "I'm really good."
You'll need a top-notch team to win this one.
You don't have to be a witch to find the magic in this world, but it does help. Disappearing act.
30 seconds before you attack. Get ready.
Your spells can conjure essential items in times of need, right, Doc?
I suppose they can. Vishanti.
Good, because I've been craving a chimichanga like you cannot believe.
I am not sure that would be considered essential.
The battle starts in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1! You have to stop them from securing the mission area.
And so it begins.
Don't want to lose the fight. Losing roads where I'm most
Ancient City, revealed!
My work here is not done. Now, a disappearing act.
Protect what is rightfully ours. May the claws be with you.
I would have just backed out if I were you.
Be right back. I'll admit, I enjoyed that.
Say you're gay. Never miss!
My fate isn't now a disappearing act.
You need to stop that vehicle in its tracks.
Does a Lord Icon do bonus damage?
Unicorn, I choose you! Vehicle nobody asked for! Lucky draw! Go, Deadpool! It's your birthday! Shows no mercy. No.
Now, a disappearing act. Feeling stronger already.
Never got your back.
You can't
Enemy in front of us. Does a Lord Icon do bonus damage?
the team up nobody asked for!
Ah, that's better. Goodbye. Sorry, you chose the wrong side, Clint.
Double KO.
Goodbye.
That's a 3.
Fool's down. Thought I got too quiet.
Maximum pulse!
Ah, that's better. Goodbye.
The Shanti's power!
Double KO.
A disappearing.
These waves will not break! Armed and dangerous!
Ah, that's better.
Hope I make the cut!
Chaos control.
Found me someone to fight.
Us against the world.
Behold that child!
Protect your key!
My fate isn't sealed yet.
All these need some help. Better stop that vehicle.
Ah, that's better. Goodbye.
Maximum pulse!
Liquid hazards. Stop them.
Enemy in front of us.
Protect your key! Oceans, protect
My
me!
fate now a disappearing act.
Does a Lord Icon do bonus damage?
There's still a chance to stop them.
Disappearing.
Now might be a good time to stop them.
Expanders flat butts! They're behind us! Lord, I can't do. Thought I was a goner.
Better stop that vehicle!
This conveyance must be stopped.
This time I need healing. I feel better already.
It's now or never! Stop them! Grand finale, Spider! Better stop that vehicle!
Never miss!
Don't give them another inch! Or else.
I have risen.
What a ribbon! I suck!
A feast for my crows!
Us against the world! Well, you can't expect to win them all. You'll need a top-notch team to win this one.
Open your eyes. Reality is but an illusion. There is only one Sorcerer Supreme.
30 seconds before you attack. Get ready.
Every time I see you, I think to myself, as long as Spider-Man is still around, everything will be all right. That's a lot of pressure. I don't mean it that way. You just mean a lot to a lot of people.
The battle starts in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All you need to do is capture the mission area. Got it?
We are warriors. No matter what
Good medicine.
Starting pretty bad over here!
What have you summoned now, Namor?
wet down pretty hard.
I have unfinished business here. I am strengthened for battle. Enemy in front of us.
My healing factor can't keep up. Too bad it is Assistance, please. My cosmic might returns. Your service. This time I need healing. The cosmos heals you. Tentacles are big, but you do you, Namor.
Get you stuck.
Only 60 seconds left.
I'm the best there is. Suck it, Logan. Your attack.
My strength has increased. Quantum magic.
Healing. Why would I need a feast for my crows?
I require some aid.
Battle means ever increasing. I saw one of these on a beach in Jersey once.
Healing power.
30 seconds.
Your powers are mine!
Hell unleashed!
The cosmos heals you.
Born again!
Final 10 seconds.
The cosmos heals you. Stronger together.
You'll have to keep fighting until we have a winner.
Your legend has come to an end, Star-Lord. Quantum magic.
Help get that vehicle to its destination.
My strength is increased.
Healing. Why would I need healing? Enemies.
I require some aid.
We make a killer team.
The cosmos heals you.
Love that healing feeling.
Feel my power.
No one can stop us.
You're halfway there. Keep going.
Healing power.
Got the King City statue. Let's roll.
I am at your service.
And maybe a point.
I have risen.
Get that vehicle moving again.
The cosmos heals you.
Step in my step.
This time I need healing. The cosmos heals you. I feel stronger than ever. You are safe now, my friend.
Got the King City statue. Let's roll.
Citizens Kai!
Only 60 seconds left.
Born again!
You get a weapon! You get a weapon! You get a weapon!
Second chance is over.
The vehicle reached a checkpoint. Keep up the momentum.
Wakanda forever! Or at least until this level is over. Hum's X-Men cartoon theme as close as possible.
I require some aid.
We're about to get aid.
Quantum magic.
Oh, love that healing feeling. Enemies on your tail. Let's get go!
We're your fat soldiers, Namor.
Healing power.
Truly magnificent.
Your powers are mine! Hell unleashed!
Quantum magic. Your souls unite. I am at your service.
So close. This is your big chance.
The cosmos heals you. The cosmos heals you.
What a cute kitty statue. It looks great in my
Namor has helped
apartment.
take warriors from the deep.
Down goes their accuracy percentage!
Another epic victory. Big win. You'll need a top-notch team to win this one.
You don't have to be a witch to find the magic in this world, but it does help.
Apparently, this is what's so fucking insane. I did not expect this to happen. Trump was one of the first people who was a whistleblower on Jeffrey Epstein. More evidence that Trump was the original Jeffrey Epstein whistleblower is coming out in the court documents. Trump was responsible for Epstein's first conviction. So you remember whenever this came out?
When he first heard the rumor, he kicked him out of Mar-a-Lago. He was an FBI informant.
I can tell you that I talked to President Trump back in 2009, and several times after that, he helped me. He got on the phone. me, told me things that were helping our investigation.
I now see why Biden didn't release the Epstein files when he had 4 years to do so. I don't think anybody was predicting this. This is the file. Knew Epstein was disgusting. Trump said Maxwell was Epstein's operative. She is evil and to focus on her. Trump told blank that he was around Epstein once when teenagers were present, and Trump got the hell out of there. Trump was one of the very first people to call when people found out they were investigating Epstein. No one could explain how Epstein made his money. Prince Andrew was a fixture in Palm Beach, so Jeffrey Epstein thought that Trump ratted him out. Epstein came to believe that it was Trump who had first caused him to be investigated by the law enforcement in 2005. This is also one from 2016.
Bill Clinton. Got a lot of problems coming up, in my opinion, with the famous island with Jeffrey Epstein. A lot of problems.
That island was really a cesspool. There's no question about it. Just ask Prince Andrew. He'll tell you about it. The island was an absolute cesspool.
He has quite obviously conducted himself in a manner unbecoming. Yes.
Unbecoming? He was a sex offender.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm being polite, in the sense that he was a sex offender.
But you were staying at the house of
Yes.
a convicted sex offender.
It was a convenient place to stay.
Right. That I threw him out of a club. I didn't want anything to do with him. That was many, many years ago. Now, other people, they went all over with him. They went to his island. Find out the people that went to the island.
Yeah, why is he in the clear? He's not in the clear, but what it was showing is that before any public scrutiny occurred, Donald Trump expressed concern about Epstein directly to the authorities. It seemed pretty obvious to me that Donald Trump and Epstein were pretty close at one point. It's very hard, really, for me to say that, you know, like, this guy's totally innocent, but at the same time, whenever you're the guy that's ratting this person out before anything ever happens publicly, then I do think that looks very good on your side. I think it absolutely does.
Thank you, Senator Johnson. Senator Cornyn, let me just come back to you. I want to get a handle here on just the scale of the fraud in Minnesota. We talked about the dark money groups funding much of what's going on the ground, but let's just get a handle here on the scale of the fraud. You are a member, I want to get this right, of the the Office of the Legislative Auditor. So, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Mr. Chair, of the Legislative Audit Commission.
Audit Commission, got you. You oversee the Office of the Legislative Auditor. Okay, got it. So you've got access to all of this information. Give me your best estimate based on the information you've seen, the audits you've seen. How many of the agencies, 20 or so agencies, I think, in the state of Minnesota, public agencies, how many have rampant fraud?
All of them are wrapped up in some sort of an issue. There's 20 primary state agencies in state law. The largest, there are 10 of our largest primary agencies. Many of the nonprofits receive grants and funding from all 10 agencies.
If you had to put a number on it, based on what you've seen, your work, your investigations, the audits that you've seen, what do you think the total losses are to Minnesotans in terms of fraud?
I think the conservative number is what our federal investigators have determined. Of just the 14 Medicaid programs, that half of all of it would be about $9 billion. And I don't think that's... And I think the reason I believe that's true is in each audit that the legislative auditor produces, we measure the level and the samples of what they have done. 20 to 80% of each one of them, they're unable to prove that the dollars were actually have gone to the programs in which they're indicated.
$9 billion. How much of this money has left Minnesota for overseas?
Well, I arrived in 2017. The Child Care Assistance Program fraud, for which the program, I believe, was $130 million. The whistleblowers showed us that they believe $100 million of that was fraudulent. We had a whistleblower come forward, actually publicly, and at that time we also discovered something new to me, which is the Hawala process of the movement of cash through our airports in Minneapolis, St. Paul. And what I've come to learn, in that year it was just coincidentally $100 million in fraud, suspected fraud, and $100 million went out in cash through the Minneapolis-St. Paul airport. I've learned that.
Tell us how that worked. $100 million in cash for the airport.
In suitcases, back then it was $1 million out of crack. And so I've learned that in the year before it was about $74 million. Secretary Bessent I've tried for 2.5 years to get that number because I wanted to get a view of how many excess dollars are sent out from the program, from the community that's sending them. And in the last 2 years, it was $340 million each year. And so if you look at it, it's about a 25% increase over this period from 2017. That's $1.8 billion in cash. And I don't think the average citizen who works for their money understands how complicated it is to ship or to obtain $6 to $7 million of cash every single week of every year. That's and our federal government certainly must have been aware of it and has done nothing to look at it. But that's just all but about 130 million, I think, is originated out of Minnesota.
You know, but what every American taxpayer absolutely understands is their federal tax money being taken on suitcases out of this country to go heaven knows where. I mean, if that's not infuriating, I don't know what is. And the fact that it is systemic in Minnesota, and probably, to your testimony, Mr. Talco, probably systemic in a lot of other places. I mean, millions of dollars in suitcases out of an airport, and that's just one means of shipping this money around. I mean, it's absolutely unbelievable. I want to come back to you, Mr. Talco. You testified that about $1 trillion you think is lost in fraud every year. Where is this money going? I mean, we know where some of it's going in Minnesota. It went overseas. It went to Somalia. It went to NGO fronts. We know where it's gone in some other states. California gave away billions of dollars to a pro-Hamas NGO. But $1 trillion nationally, where's this money going to?
I appreciate that question because most people don't ask that question. It goes to terrorism. It goes to child trafficking. It goes to drugs. It goes to terrorism. And then it's used to purchase luxury items, cars, purses, homes. That's all funded by people like me that pay taxes.
So you're telling me that the electrician who goes to work every day and clocks in and works his butt off and tries to earn just enough to be able to, make his rent, maybe have a kid or two, put food on the table, his tax money is being used to buy other people luxury items, cars, yachts, whatever else, and is going to fund terrorism and child trafficking?
Yes, sir.
$1 trillion a year on this stuff?
$115 million an hour.
$115 million an hour. How do they get in their hands on it? What are we talking about here? Trends, national organizations, criminal networks? How do they get their hands on this?
They take advantage of antiquated government systems and processes. They go into programs that they know elected and appointed officials won't touch, and they can steal at scale. And what happened really was during the pandemic, between the PPP loans and the unemployment insurance, they learned a really valuable lesson. Government never runs out of money, and the probability of getting caught is virtually zero. I have it at 0.1%.
So come back to the recommendations that you mentioned in your opening statement. What do we need to do to put a stop to this hemorrhaging of people's hard-earned money going overseas to finance child trafficking and luxury yachts? I mean, what needs to happen?
It's really simple. It's used every single day in the commercial sector. Front-end identity verification, you just don't get to say, I am who I say I am. Second, recertification of all the recipients. There is so much fraud right now in the benefit programs all across the country. We need to get a baseline. Third is this notion of a third-party independent audit. And finally is involving federal law enforcement like the Secret Service to investigate it. The thing that people don't understand is that most of these beneficiaries, Senator, they're not real. They're fake. They're someone's stolen identity that is getting used in all 50 states.
Incredible. Senator Kemp. Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Thanks to the witnesses for being here. Mr. McAtee, let me just start with you. I just want to try to drill down and get clear on what happened here. When you got a subpoena from Jack Smith for Senator Cruz's records, you pushed back on this. How did you do that? How did you know it was Senator Cruz whose records were being requested?
In that case, Senator, it was fairly obvious. The subscriber name was Ted Cruz for Senate, so we put it together.
Yeah. Huh. So you thought to actually look at the number and match it up and maybe see if there might be a legal problem here. You asked a few questions. Is that fair to say?
That's correct.
And what happened next?
What happened next was we did some research, as you would expect any legal department to do. As I mentioned earlier, we consulted with outside experts. We talked among ourselves. And we determined that even though the subpoena was obligatory, that we were required to respond to it, we can always ask a question. And so we asked a question. We sent an email from my department that I read in the record earlier, asking for special counsel's views on the potential constitutional implications under our bill.
Did this subpoena include a non-disclosure order?
It did, Senator.
But that didn't stop you from conducting a basic inquiry.
No, it did not.
Okay. Well, I'm glad you did the inquiry because, as it turns out, the non-disclosure order was totally illegal, as we've covered and now exhaustively in this hearing and in others. Statutes in place on the books in 2020 required notification to sitting members of Congress if their information is subpoenaed in any way. Not to mention the contract that the Sergeant-at-Arms has with all three of the major telecoms. So I'm glad you did your job. My question for you is, Mr. Miller, why didn't you do any of this?
Senator, at that time, and I recognize we should have had a better process here, but at that time, we did not train our subpoena analysts to do a searching inquiry into the subscriber associated with it.
What does that mean? What does that mean? You just didn't bother to try and associate the phone number with any name?
Senator, we respect the privacy of our customers, and we did not want...
Apparently not, because you turned over every piece of information from every senator sitting on this dais who got any illegal subpoena. You turned it over with no process at all. So let's skip that part. Just get to the part where you tell me why you didn't do anything that Mr. McAtee did.
Senator, the process we have in place now would largely...
I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in why you didn't do any of the basic investigation. Ask a question, you get a subpoena for all of these numbers, and your testimony is you just handed over the documents, you didn't do anything? Is that what happened?
Senator, so first, when we receive a subpoena, we do not know the nature of the investigation or the sensitivities involved. Second, as I mentioned, we train our subpoena analysts to respect the confidentiality and the privacy of our...
So you don't try to match up, you don't look and match up the numbers. You're telling me you don't try to associate a number with a name. You don't do that.
No, Senator. We do now for members of Congress, but that was not the procedure at the time.
Really? Because you testified to Senator Durbin not long ago that you disclosed all of the names to this committee of all of the people who are associated with the numbers, including mine. So clearly you had the ability to do it, you just didn't do it. Is that correct?
We had the ability to do it, yes.
But you didn't do it.
You'll need a top-notch team
thought
to
we
win
had good
this
reasons
one.
for that, Senator.
Why is that? You don't have any problem associating names with accounts when you go to bill people, which you do every month. I seem to recall getting a bill from you monthly. You had no problem associating my name with my number when you wanted money from me. But when it came to protecting the basic rights of your consumers, your subscribers, your customers, you couldn't be bothered?
No, Senator, I would not say that.
I would. I think I just did.
Senator,
why didn't you follow the contract that you have with the United States government? You've got a contract worth millions of dollars with the United States government, which obligates you to inform the Sergeant-at-Arms if you get any request for processor information from a senator or any number associated with that contract. That contract was in place, and that language was in place when these subpoena requests came through, and you didn't do any of it. Why is that?
Senator, I don't agree that
You don't agree with what?
That we violated the contract.
Really? The contract says that you are obliged to inform the Senate when any records are demanded. And I'm quoting here from a letter not from Senator Graham, not from a Republican. It's from Senator Ron Wyden, who sent a Dear Colleague letter to every member of the United States Senate May 21st, 2025, notifying us that these contract terms are being regularly violated by your company, among others. So why didn't you follow the contract that you were making millions of dollars on? Why didn't you do that?
Senator, I get your frustration with this issue, but the contract...
No, I just want the truth. I'm frustrated because we get the runaround constantly. We've gotten it all day from you. So why didn't you follow the contract?
Senator, the contract covers a definition of sin. At this time, we did not interpret the contract to apply to
the phone lines?
To the kind of records that Verizon generates. response as opposed to
Oh,
recommending
for heaven's
consent.
sake. This is just absurd. And I'll just say this, Madam Chair. We're talking here about members of Congress. If you are a normal person, if you are a working person out there, just think of the fact that these guys, with one exception, Mr. McAtee's company, AT&T, all the other guys just handed over this data. They couldn't do it fast enough. They rushed to do it. They can find you when they want to bill you. They can find you in a heartbeat. When it comes time to protect your data, they're nowhere to be found. It is absolutely a disgrace. And the fact that you testified earlier that you get hundreds of thousands of requests for personal information every year is chilling. Because what all your customers should know is you just turn it over willy-nilly. I would expect better from you, from all of you, frankly. I think what you've done here is outrageous, and I think the implications for the privacy of the American people are absolutely unbelievable. Thank you, Mr. McAtee, for protecting your customers. I wish these other guys would do the same. I tell you what, everybody ought to go to AT&T because Verizon and whoever you are, T-Mobile, you guys are terrible. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Senator Hawley. I want to follow on with one question to each of the telecoms, because Jack Smith, in his hearing at the House, said he could not recall how many members of Congress had had their privacy violated. So to each of the telecoms here this morning, I want to go down the line and ask you, are there additional members of Congress that you received requests for their information? Mr. Miller?
Senator, we believe that either from the former special counsel's office or a predecessor law enforcement entity, we received subpoenas for a total of 15 members of Congress.
And that's it. Mr. Nelson?
One member of Congress.
Mr. McAtee?
No additionals. The ones we discussed, 4 total.
Thank you. Senator Whitehouse, you're recognized.
Senator Cruz.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for holding this hearing. You know, I think it is amazing that Democrats never seem to focus on innocent victims who are shot and killed by illegal aliens that their policies have led into this country. They never seem to say names like Jocelyn Dungaree in my hometown of Houston, who was raped and murdered, a young girl by 2 Venezuelan gang members that Joe Biden had in custody and released. Came to Houston and raped and murdered a beautiful little girl. They never seem to mention someone like Laken Riley, a nursing student, beautiful young woman murdered by the illegal alien the Democrats have released. They never seem to mention anyone like Kate Steinle, a beautiful young woman, 28 years old, in California, shot on a pier by an illegal alien who had been released over and over and over again. We have had Kate Steinle's father testify before this committee. He held her head in his hands as she died, and her last words were, "Help me, Daddy." And yet, for my Democrat colleagues, it seems there's no limit to how many Americans can be murdered by illegal aliens, and yet they simply don't care. They still support open borders and releasing murderers and releasing violent criminals. We're here today because of the Democrats' open border policies and the damage it's done to this country. But we're also here today because Minnesota's welfare system has been treated like an open ATM, and the taxpayers are the ones getting robbed. Ms. Gambler, GAO has reported that the federal government loses hundreds of billions of dollars each year to fraud and improper payments, much of it in public benefit programs. Is that correct?
Yes, GAO has reported both on estimates of federal government losses due to fraud, as well as estimates of improper payments government-wide.
You may recall the infamous Clearing Center, whose blacked-out windows and childless facilities have become emblematic of the public programs fraud currently plaguing Minnesota. Mr. O'Brien, when investigators encounter fraud this obvious, does it usually represent just a single isolated bad actor or the visible tip of a much larger scheme?
No, it's usually the visible tip of a much larger scheme. Fraud has a tendency not to occur in vacuum.
In that instance, the fraud was so blatant that the owners of the business couldn't be bothered to spell the organization's name correctly on the public side. Mr. O'Brien, does fraud of that magnitude typically persist because it's difficult to detect, or because oversight and enforcement break down?
It tends to persist because oversight and enforcement break down, and it tends to spread geometrically.
The Somali fraud problem in Minnesota is not confined to child care centers. Federal prosecutors in Minnesota expect that half of the more than $18 billion spent since 2018 on 14 different Minnesota welfare programs may prove to be fraudulent. To put that figure into perspective, the amount of fraud, if confirmed, may approach the entire GDP of the nation of Somalia. Mr. Hankins, once funds are launched and sent overseas to fragile and corrupt jurisdictions,
I'm ready to put on a
is there any realistic prospect of recovering them?
Only they come back and spend them.
In many respects, Minneapolis has become the Mogadishu of the Midwest. As the chairman of the Subcommittee on Federal Courts Oversight, Agency Action and Federal Rights, I'm proud to have held a hearing last week on the issue of fraud within the Minnesota Somali community and beyond. But the problem of fraud doesn't stop there. Neither does our inquiry. Our shared civic culture rests on something uniquely American, a respect for the public commons. It is clear, though, that though Minnesota opened its doors in the early 1990s to a massive number of Somali immigrants, that kindness was not reciprocated. Instead, it was exploited again and again and again, and that's simply unacceptable. Mr. Beer, can any welfare system long survive if large-scale fraud is excused and explained away rather than... The moon haunts you!
No.
It would be entirely naive to assume that fraud of this magnitude simply stopped at public program frauds. I encourage you to examine the graph behind it. What do you notice about the usage of public programs among Minnesota's Somali immigrant population? 81% of Somali households in Minnesota receive some form of welfare, compared to 21% of non-Somali households. 54% of Somali households receive food stamps, compared to 7% of non-Somali households. 73% are enrolled in Medicaid, compared to 18% of non-Somali households. And 27% receive cash assistance, compared to 6% of non-Somali households. My question to the panel, this is my final question, is importing vast numbers of people from an impoverished nation, putting the majority of them on public welfare for years and decades at a time, and then turning a blind eye while they steal billions of dollars from the taxpayer. Is that helping America or hurting America? Each of you has a chance to answer that. Ms. Gamble.
Yes, thank you, Senator. I would just say that your question really speaks to the work that BAO has done as it relates to leading practices for managing fraud risk. We've put out a framework for agencies that can help them better put in place processes and controls up front to prevent fraud risk, and then also have policies and practices in place to really tailor their anti-fraud activities and anti-fraud approaches.
I believe in the melting pot. I'm an immigrant. To melt, you need heat. You've got to put heat on people to make sure they obey laws and learn how we do business in the United States.
Is that helping or hurting America? Simple question.
I think if we ignore fraud, we're hurting America.
By the eye of Agamotto.
That's not in the U.S. national interest, Senator, and we know that Somalia is a high fraud country. To bring people from that country and not integrate into our system is not in the U.S. national interest.
Mr. Byers.
You can have a welfare state or you can have open borders, but you can't have both.
Mr. Beer?
We can build a wall around the welfare state, and that would be a lot better for taxpayers than building a wall and keeping out all these legal immigrants who can come and
Is this helping or hurting America?
Certainly, the welfare state is a problem, but
Mr. Schwartz?
It is not unusual for immigrant populations to have a high degree of assistance early in after their arrival, but we are already seeing statistics that the net benefit economically of Somali presence in the United States far outweids the cost.
So your testimony is this massive welfare usage is helping America, and the fraud is helping America?
Not the fraud. We need to go after the fraud, which makes all inexplicable the Trump administration's decision to take actions that has decimated the U.S. Attorney's Office in Minnesota. I can't understand it. Can you
So
understand it?
simple question: is this helping America or hurting
The
America?
Somali presence in the United States is helping America.
Well,
That graph
For the
is
Minnesota
wild
taxpayers who had $9
misrepresentation.
billion.
You'll need a top-notch team to win this one.
Open your eyes. Reality is but an illusion. Magic is not to be owned. Open your eyes. Experienced. Lived.
Nothing compared to
Open your eyes.
30 seconds before you attack. Get ready.
Precise hand motions to cast correctly.
So, I've got some signature hand motion. But showing you would ruin our reading.
I believe it would be best for all if I just took your word.
The battle starts in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Help get that vehicle to its destination.
I am strengthened.
We're definitely outnumbered.
wits. Born again!
I am Phoenix! That's it! Don't let anything stand in your way! Hell unleashed!
Second chance is over. Son, I need healing. Cosmic might returns. I could not allow a trace of Null's darkness. Healing power. Flawless.
Bombed and beautiful, baby!
So close! This is your big chance!
Stronger than ever.
You do know we're not paying you for this, right, Wade?
Pure cosmic energy.
Disappear!
Not allow a trace of Null's darkness to survive. Son, I need healing. Cosmos heals you. We are not alone. We are in this together.
Born again!
Another epic victory! Big win!
Oh my goodness. Candace Owens, Director of Communications at the Conservative. Nobody else is described as progressive or liberal, but you are described as a conservative advocacy group, Turning Point USA, and a conservative commentator and political activist known for her criticism of Black Lives Matter and the Democrat Party. I think you've caused my friends on the left to go to their safe spaces, and I'd love to explore with you a little bit of the reason for that.
Open your eyes.
Do you consider yourself a conservative?
I am a conservative, yes.
Okay. Are you pro-life?
I am pro-life.
Okay. Does that trigger people when you see them, that they know that you're pro-life?
It makes them very upset, and Democrats hate me.
Do you own a gun?
Pardon?
Do you own a gun?
No, sir.
This segment opens with a lawmaker addressing Candace Owens by referencing how she is publicly described, including labels such as conservative commentator and critic of movements like Black Lives Matter. The questioning quickly becomes direct and categorical, focusing on her personal political identity. She confirms she is a conservative and states that she is pro-life. The lawmaker asks whether those positions provoke strong reactions from political opponents, and Owens responds that they do, particularly among Democrats. The questioning then shifts briefly to gun ownership, which she denies. The tone is pointed but structured, establishing her ideological profile early in the exchange and setting the foundation for later questions about how those views are received socially and politically.
When next time you come to Colorado, we'll take you shooting. Are you a Christian?
Yes, I am.
Are you proud of your family?
I'm very proud of my family.
Okay. Let me ask you something. Do you hate Americans with black skin color?
Absolutely not. I actually love Americans with black skin color so much that I'm willing to fall on the sword 1,000 times for them to wake up and realize that we are being lied to, abused, and used by the Democrats.
How about Americans with white skin color? You hate them?
I do not, and that's a problem for people on the left.
Do you hate Hispanics?
I do not.
Do you hate Asians?
I do not.
Do you hate lesbians or gays or anybody from the LGBTQ community?
Nope, I've got all of that in my family.
I'm baffled because in the chairman's opening statement, he said that you openly associate with purveyors of hate.
In this portion, the lawmaker asks Owens a rapid series of questions about whether she harbors hatred toward various racial, ethnic, or identity groups. She repeatedly states that she does not hate Black Americans, white Americans, Hispanics, Asians, or members of the LGBTQ community, adding at one point that she has LGBTQ individuals within her own family. The lawmaker then references a prior statement from the committee chair suggesting that she associates with purveyors of hate. Owens disputes that characterization and argues that the term is being applied broadly to people who support the sitting president. The exchange centers on definitions of hate and whether political alignment is being equated with extremism.
Yes, purveyors of hate, by his definition, is anybody that supports the president. I support the president because he's done a tremendous job in helping the Black community, despite all of the rhetoric from the media and leftists, which do not want him to be successful.
Tell me a little bit about how the president has helped the Black community, if you would, please.
Well, he's lowered the Black unemployment rate. It's the lowest it's ever been in the history. He's getting us off of our feet. We see, I believe the last number I checked was 3.5 million people are off of food stamps, something that the Black Caucus sat down and didn't applaud. Neither did any of the Democrats applaud, because they want a system where Blacks are dependent on the government. They that put in place the policies that broke down the Black family, and the biggest problem that's facing our community is father absence. In every room that I've been in with the president, he talks about real issues, and he doesn't pander to us. He doesn't do Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's southern drawl accent and speaking to us like we're slaves. He asks us important questions, and the most important question he could have asked was, Black America, what do you have to lose? Because we were already losing under Democrat leadership.
Here, Owens is invited to explain why she believes the president has positively impacted the Black community. She cites economic indicators such as low unemployment rates and reductions in food stamp usage, presenting these as evidence of improved economic conditions. She contrasts this with what she describes as a preference among some Democratic leaders for government dependency programs. She also raises concerns about family structure, particularly father absence, describing it as a major issue facing Black communities. Throughout this segment, she frames her support for the president as results-based rather than rhetorical, emphasizing what she views as tangible outcomes over symbolic gestures.
Do you believe that you openly associate with purveyors of hate?
I absolutely do not. I have no tolerance for hate whatsoever.
Do you believe that college campuses should be open discussions, or there should be open discussions on college campuses for various issues?
I absolutely do. You know, I do a campus tour tonight. I'm flying up to University of Connecticut to continue that, and we are being met with aggressive leftist groups. 3 Antifa chapters have declared they're going to try to shut it down, and we face this violence every day on the left, and nobody ever wants to talk about it.
And I guess what I was going to ask you, you went on to explain it before I got a chance to, but have you ever been disinvited from speech opportunities at college campuses because of your conservative views?
All the time.
Is that a form of hatred, you think?
Of course it is, and we're not talking enough about political hatred in this country. We're not talking enough about conservative activists being attacked, like myself. We had a student whose dorm was set on fire for being a member of the Turning Point chapter, and all we preach is for free markets and capitalism as a means to lift the most people out of poverty. That is my belief, and of course, my main thesis is that Black people do not have to be Democrats, and we are not owned by the left. I understand that causes some people trouble.
The conversation turns to free speech on college campuses. Owens states that she frequently speaks at universities and claims that conservative speakers often face organized protests and attempts to shut down events. She mentions specific activist groups that she says oppose her appearances and describes an atmosphere of hostility toward conservative viewpoints in academic settings. She frames this as part of a broader issue of political intolerance, arguing that conservative voices are sometimes met with disruption or threats rather than debate.
So, as a conservative, you've attended many conservative events and visited with many conservatives. And I am not denying for a moment that there are white supremacists and we should condemn white supremacists, that there are Nazis and we should condemn Nazis, that there are hateful groups all across the political spectrum and we should condemn those. But in your interactions with conservatives, have you seen hateful speech, bigotry, race among the conservatives that you've associated with?
I speak in front of conservatives probably 3 times a week. I jump on a stage and I say everything pro-Black, and they are so supportive and they applaud all they want.
Elijah wants to act like he's some moral, high and mighty, better than everyone man. He was fired from his job for inappropriate behavior, and not even a year ago at a conservative conference, he did my friend 4 times in one night, unprotected.
You have that post-ejaculate clarity, post-nut clarity, they call it online these days. But like, because you realize, like, after you nut, you're like, you're just a bunch of holes. And that's really sad, because then it devalues women. So then your view of women becomes so low, because women really are just a bunch of holes today.
Dumb bitch, please. I'm trying. Like, God damn it! Being such a fucking whore. I'm like really like, oh, hey, you know, you had a couple beers. Oh, why do you lie to me? Why do you lie to me? You don't like her. Whore, you bitch.
We have a lot to talk about. Hi, my name is Sydney. Welcome back to Hell. And the trip into hell is precisely what this video is. I think for a lot of people, this video is going to be a long time coming. And for my new subscribers and for new friends of the channel, you are all going to be extremely confused. And I do not blame you for that. Your mama bird had a life before I hatched all of you from your eggs. Okay? That was a weird analogy. I'm sorry about that one. Jokes aside, I think it is also worth noting too that as this video progresses, I want you to keep in mind that while all of this to most of you is spectator sport, and more specifically blood sport, this is my actual life, and the things that have happened have directly impacted my actual life. So the subject matter of this video is very sad and very dark, and it has brought me a tremendous amount of stress and pain over the last 4-ish years. And I say it's dark because it concerns a masterclass in manipulative behavior, compulsive and pathological lying, cheating, what I consider to be a form of grooming of younger men, sexual assault, and a host of other really untoward and bad things. It also concerns me being harassed both privately and publicly since about 2022-ish, and not being able to defend myself during this entire time. Funnily enough, after all of these years, everybody has been able to weigh in on my situation but me. And finally, I'm in a position where I would like to tell my side of the story and hopefully give myself some closure. So for those of you who don't know, I was friends with and formerly worked with an individual and an online commentator called Elijah Silva, who was recently exposed for having an affair, so to speak, with one of his employees, a woman named Sarah Stock. I will probably show you some unrelated clips of these two for visual purposes, so you can put a name to a face.
You know, I was actually nervous for everybody, considering the fact that, like, you were trying to pull the sword out, and, like, you just didn't. You were trying to pull
it
it.
was kind of heavy, and I almost like kind of like dropped it on my shoulder too. And
Not good at wielding the sword. That's definitely a true statement. So, she was blind.
For those who are not familiar with Elijah and his history as a commentator, the reason that this new information and these allegations appalled a lot of people and led them to accusing him of hypocrisy online is because Elijah, for years, has talked about his relationship with Christianity, giving himself over to God and his journey as a Christian trying to do better and be better. In this podcast, for example, from 3 years ago, he talks about his history of doing drugs in his youth and, I suppose, not living up to the expectations of the church, but navigating his way through his belief system. It's worth noting, too, that despite his discussions around trying to be a better Christian and routinely telling us that he has given himself over to God and become a better person in the process, he simultaneously has continued to make comments like this.
You have that post-ejaculate clarity, post-nut clarity, they call it online these days. But, like, you realize, like, after you nut, you're like, you're just a bunch of holes. And that's really sad, because then it devalues women. So then your view of women becomes so low, because women really are just a bunch of holes today. But that doesn't mean that's who they have to be, or who God made them to be, or what they should be. And I think that a lot of the hatred that I have towards women, and a lot of the hatred a lot of men have towards women, is simply the product of generations of sin and rebellion that have created women to be something that they're not. They're not feminine, they're masculine.
Anyway, prior to the information about his alleged affair dropping, Elijah tweeted a series of things about his wife and children being kidnapped, then tweeted that he'd lost his car, or that I suppose it was stolen, and I don't know where this came from, but some people were talking about him saying that he'd lost his gun, which led a lot of people online to speculate that he had murdered his family. After this, he deleted those tweets, but then posted that his wife had actually left him and he was just sober and sad. After this, a host of additional information came to light, and the reason why none of this surprises me is because this is very similar to many of the claims that I made myself about Elijah years ago. And when these claims were coming out from me, a lot of people said that I was lying. There were people who flat out said that I was trying to Me Too Elijah, but we'll come back to all of that. Soon, these affair accusations were substantiated in some capacity by an audio recording where we can hear Sarah, Elijah's employee, admitting that he got her drunk and reportedly the two of them.
Because it was like at CPAC the 2 nights. We were there, and the second night I was like breaking out in like a rash, and so he's like, oh, like get some Benadryl, it'll help with the rash. And like now I'm thinking back, and it's like that's probably why I like blacked out, because he like intentionally gave me Benadryl, like sent me a bunch of shots and stuff, and like obviously it's like stupid on my part to like go along with that, you know. But at the same time,
Don't mess with the amazing
he obviously
Spider-Man!
like, knew what he was doing.
It is worth noting that I personally fully believe this because in the time that Elijah and I were friends, it was not a running theme, but it was well understood that he would try to get people blackout drunk. Now, his motivations for doing so, I could not tell you, but it's worth understanding that this is attachment behavior. After this, more audio was released of Elijah drunkenly either berating his wife, it's quite unclear if he was actually filming what he is saying. What I think is happening is that he is just talking about her in an awful way to somebody else. Obviously, that doesn't excuse this whatsoever, and this is an incredibly hard listen, fair warning. But this is something that Elijah would do where he would get drunk and then discuss it.
I'm trying. God damn it. He's just fucking real.
Disappear!
Fucking daughter, dude. You need to shut the fuck up. How about that? Dude, I'm gonna talk to the chief. You're a fucking whore. I don't want to be around you. I'm not a whore. Just you act like one. I like the cold. How about that? Oh, you're going out to show yourself to me? Yeah. How about this? I can handle your shit. Fucking divorce me. Take my time. Fuck you up. How about this? Shut the fuck up, because I'm your husband, and I'm trying to support you as your husband. Oh, you abuse son. Oh, god damn it. I was honest with you. Do you know what I got in return, being honest? This shit. So fuck you. Honestly, from my bottom of my heart, fuck you, you bitch. I fucking will never be honest with you. You're a fucking ungrateful bitch. So fuck you.
There were also a series of claims made online about Elijah that refer directly to his proclivities and his interest in same-sex relations. There was also a dossier that, I don't know if it was leaked or if it was just sent to a bunch of people.
You'll need a top-notch team to win this one.
Open your eyes. Reality is but an illusion. Make way for the King of Thieves. This is almost as fun as pulling a heist. Almost.
30 seconds before you attack. Get ready.
Great Phoenix, I have heard of your disdain for intergalactic empires. I assure you, Wakanda shall do no such thing.
The battle starts in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You have to stop them from securing the mission area.
That hit the spot.
Been out of touch for a while. Now I'm back in the game. Thanks for the boost.
Now you do the same for me, Ring.
Save some of them for me, Rogue.
Double down.
Goodbye. That hurt me up.
Helping hand.
I am Phoenix!
Gambit got your back. Mademoiselle Gray turning up the heat.
What am I? Thanks for the boost.
Just who Gambit is looking for. Ooh, weak. That hit the spot.
Cosmic Blade! Save some of them for me, Rogue.
Mon Dieu, that hurt. Judge, jury, executioner! Just the boost I needed.
With me, you get what's coming to you. That hurt me up.
Double down. Gambit got your back.
Anyone willing to help?
Unlucky.
That's better. Thanks for the boost.
Unlucky. Ooh, wait. That hit the spot. Double dash. Your powers are mine!
Shields up!
Now you do the same for me, Louise. Unlucky.
I am Phoenix! Oh, perfect! Now look who's up to no good. You need some help?
What have we here? Armed and again! Enemy! They're gonna pay for this shit. Again! Gambit never fall!
Better than ever. What am I? Invisible? I put this to good use.
Bust! Gambit coming back for more. Helping hand! Oh, Geldo
Double KO! Only
Now
60
you do the
seconds
same
left.
for me, Louise.
Could use a boost. There you are. Do I gotta clean up your toys for you, Mooney? You have no influence here now, Punchy.
Double up.
That's much better. Now, thanks for the boost. Down to 30 seconds.
Laissez le bon temps brûler. Time's running out. No giving up now.
Anyone willing to help?
They show the lucky draw. They hitting real hard. I'm on a roll. Needed that more than you.
Final 10 seconds.
I'm opening a portal. Pentagram of Parala. The moon haunts you.
Fast! Grace us with victory!
You need to stop that vehicle in its tracks.
Now, a disappearing act.
Better stop that vehicle!
A feast for my crows!
Healing power.
Ah, that's better. Time is up.
You made me do this.
Double KO!
Some assistance, please.
Feeling fantastic.
An opportunity
I feel better already. The cosmos heals you. You are safe now, my friend. The cosmos heals you.
Feeling stronger already.
Double KO!
Healing power. I feel better already. Healing power.
Judge, jury, executioner!